Chapters 46 through 52 of the Book of Jeremiah, from the World English Bible. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Jeremiah, from the World English Bible, chapters 46 through 52. Chapter 46. The word of Yahweh which came to Jeremiah the prophet concerning the nations. Of Egypt, concerning the army of Pharaoh Necho king of Egypt, which was by the river Euphrates in Carchemish, which Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon struck in the 4th year of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah, king of Judah. Prepare you the buckler and shield, and draw near to battle. Harness the horses, and get up, you horsemen, and stand forth with your helmets. Furbish the spears, put on the coats of mail. Why have I seen it? They are dismayed and are turned backward, and their mighty ones are beaten down, and have fled apace, and don't look back. Terror is on every side, says Yahweh. Don't let the swift flee away, nor let the mighty man escape. In the north by the river Euphrates they have stumbled and fallen. Who is this who rises up like the Nile, whose waters toss themselves like the rivers? Egypt rises up like the Nile, and his waters toss themselves like the rivers. And he says, I will rise up, I will cover the earth, I will destroy cities and its inhabitants. Go up, you horses, and rage, you chariots, and let the mighty men go forth, Cush and Put, who handle the shield, and the Ludim, who handle and bend the bow. For that day is a day of the Lord, Yahweh of armies, a day of vengeance, that he may avenge them of his adversaries. And the sword shall devour and be satiate, and shall drink its fill of their blood. For the Lord, Yahweh of armies, has a sacrifice in the north country by the river Euphrates. Go up to Gilead, and take balm, virgin daughter of Egypt. In vain do you use many medicines. There is no healing for you. The nations have heard of your shame, and the earth is full of your cry. For the mighty man has stumbled against the mighty, and they are fallen both of them together. The word that Yahweh spoke to Jeremiah the prophet, how that Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon should come and strike the land of Egypt. Declare you in Egypt, and publish in Migdol, and publish in Memphis, and in Tahpanhes. Say you, stand forth and prepare you, for the sword has devoured around you. Why are your strong ones swept away? They didn't stand, because Yahweh did drive them. He made many to stumble, yes, they fell one on another. And they said, Arise, and let us go again to our own people, and to the land of our birth, from the oppressing sword. They cried there, Pharaoh king of Egypt is but a noise. He has let the appointed time pass by. As I live, says the king, whose name is Yahweh of armies, surely like Tabor among the mountains, and like Carmel by the sea, so shall he come. You daughter who dwell in Egypt, furnish yourself to go into captivity, for Memphis shall become a desolation, and shall be burnt up, without inhabitant. Egypt is a very beautiful heifer, but destruction out of the north is come, it is come. Also her hired men in the midst of her are like calves of the stall, for they also are turned back, and are fled away together, they didn't stand. For the day of their calamity is come on them, the time of their visitation. The sound of it shall go like the serpent, for they shall march with an army, and come against her with axes as woodcutters. They shall cut down her forest, says Yahweh, though it can't be searched, because they are more than the locusts, and are innumerable. The daughter of Egypt shall be disappointed, she shall be delivered into the hand of the people of the north. Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel, says, Behold, I will punish Ammon of No, and Pharaoh, and Egypt, with her gods, and her kings, even Pharaoh and those who trust in him, and I will deliver them into the hand of those who seek their lives, and into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and into the hand of his servants. And afterwards it shall be inhabited, as in the days of old, says Yahweh. But don't be afraid you, Jacob my servant, neither be dismayed, Israel, for behold, I save you from afar, and your seed from the land of their captivity, and Jacob shall return, and shall be quiet and at ease, and none shall make him afraid. Don't be afraid you, O Jacob my servant, says Yahweh, for I am with you, for I will make a full end of all the nations where I have driven you, but I will not make a full end of you, but I will correct you in measure, and will in no way leave you unpunished. CHAPTER 47. The word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah the prophet concerning the Philistines before that Pharaoh struck Gaza. Thus says Yahweh, Behold, waters rise up out of the north, and shall become an overflowing stream, and shall overflow the land and all that is therein, the city and those who dwell therein. And the men shall cry, and all the inhabitants of the land shall wail. At the noise of the stamping of the hoofs of his strong ones, at the rushing of his chariots, at the rumbling of his wheels, the fathers don't look back to their children for feebleness of hands, because of the day that comes to destroy all the Philistines, to cut off from Tyre and Sidon every helper who remains. For Yahweh will destroy the Philistines, the remnant of the isle of Caphtor. Baldness is come upon Gaza. Ashkelon is brought to nothing, the remnant of their valley. How long will you cut yourself? You sword of Yahweh, how long will it be before you be quiet? Put up yourself into your scabbard, rest, and be still. How can you be quiet, seeing Yahweh has given you a command? Against Ashkelon, and against the seashore, there has he appointed it. CHAPTER 48. Of Moab. Thus says Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel, Woe to Nebo, for it is laid waste. Kiriathaim is disappointed, it is taken. Misgab is put to shame and broken down. The praise of Moab is no more. In Heshbon they have devised evil against her. Come, and let us cut her off from being a nation. You also, madmen, shall be brought to silence. The sword shall pursue you. The sound of a cry from Horonaim, desolation and great destruction. Moab is destroyed, her little ones have caused a cry to be heard. For by the ascent of Luhith, with continual weeping, shall they go up. For at the descent of Horonaim they have heard the distress of the cry of destruction. Flee, save your lives, and be like the heath in the wilderness. For, because you have trusted in your works, and in your treasures, you also shall be taken. And Chemosh shall go forth into captivity, his priests and his princes together. The destroyer shall come on every city, and no city shall escape. The valley also shall perish, and the plain shall be destroyed, as Yahweh has spoken. Give wings to Moab, that she may fly and get her away, and her cities shall become a desolation, without any to dwell therein. Cursed be he who does the work of Yahweh negligently, and cursed be he who keeps back his sword from blood. Moab has been at ease from his youth, and he has settled on his lees, and has not been emptied from vessel to vessel, neither has he gone into captivity. Therefore his taste remains in him, and his scent is not changed. Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will send to him those who pour off, and they shall pour him off. And they shall empty his vessels, and break their bottles in pieces. Moab shall be ashamed of Chemosh, as the house of Israel was ashamed of Bethel their confidence. How say you, We are mighty men, and valiant men for the war? Moab is laid waste, and they are gone up into his cities, and his chosen young men are gone down to the slaughter, says the King, whose name is Yahweh of armies. The calamity of Moab is near to come, and his affliction hurries fast. All you who are around him, bemoan him, and all you who know his name, say, How is the strong staff broken, the beautiful rod? You daughter who dwells in Dibon, come down from your glory, and sit in thirst, for the destroyer of Moab is come up against you, and has destroyed your strongholds. Inhabitant of Aroer, stand by the way, and watch. Ask him who flees, and her who escapes, say, What has been done? Moab is disappointed, for it is broken down, wail and cry, tell you it by the Arnon, that Moab is laid waste. Judgment is come on the plain country, on Holon, and on Jaza, and on Mephath, and on Dibon, and on Nebo, and on Beth Diblathaim, and on Kiriathaim, and on Beth Gamel, and on Beth Maon, and on Kiriath, and on Bozrah, and on all the cities of the land of Moab, far or near. The horn of Moab is cut off, and his arm is broken, says Yahweh. Make you him drunken, for he has magnified himself against Yahweh. And Moab shall wallow in his vomit, and he shall also be in derision. For wasn't Israel a derision to you? Was he found among thieves? For as often as you speak of him, you wag the head. You inhabitants of Moab, leave the cities, and dwell in the rock, and be like the dove that makes her nest over the mouth of the abyss. We have heard of the pride of Moab, that he is very proud, his loftiness, and his pride, and his arrogance, and the haughtiness of his heart. I know his wrath, says Yahweh, that it is nothing, his boastings have worked nothing. Therefore will I wail for Moab; yes, I will cry out for all Moab. For the men of Kir-Heres shall they mourn. With more than the weeping of Jazer will I weep for you, vine of Sibmah. Your branches passed over the sea, they reached even to the sea of Jazer. On your summer fruits and on your vintage the destroyer is fallen. Gladness and joy is taken away from the fruitful field and from the land of Moab. And I have caused wine to cease from the winepresses. None shall tread with shouting, the shouting shall be no shouting. From the cry of Heshbon even to Elealeh, even to Jahaz, have they uttered their voice; from Zoar even to Horonaim, to Eglath-Shelishiah; for the waters of Nimrim shall also become desolate. Moreover I will cause to cease in Moab, says Yahweh, him who offers in the high place, and him who burns incense to his gods. Therefore my heart sounds for Moab like pipes, and my heart sounds like pipes for the men of Kir-Heres. Therefore the abundance that he has gotten is perished. For every head is bald, and every beard clipped; on all the hands are cuttings, and on the waist sackcloth. On all the housetops of Moab and in its streets there is lamentation everywhere. For I have broken Moab like a vessel in which none delights, says Yahweh. How is it broken down? How do they wail! How has Moab turned back with shame! So shall Moab become a derision and a terror to all who are around him. For thus says Yahweh, Behold, he shall fly as an eagle, and he shall spread out his wings against Moab. Kerioth is taken, and the strongholds are seized, and the heart of the mighty men of Moab at that day shall be as the heart of a woman in her pangs. Moab shall be destroyed from being a people, because he has magnified himself against Yahweh. Fear, and the pit, and the snare are on you, inhabitant of Moab, says Yahweh. He who flees from the fear shall fall into the pit, and he who gets up out of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For I will bring on him, even on Moab, the year of their visitation, says Yahweh. Those who fled stand without strength under the shadow of Heshbon, for a fire is gone forth out of Heshbon, and a flame from the midst of Sihon, and has devoured the corner of Moab, and the crown of the head of the tumultuous ones. Woe to you, O Moab! The people of Chemosh is undone, for your sons are taken away captive, and your daughters into captivity. Yet will I bring back the captivity of Moab in the latter days, says Yahweh. Thus far is the judgment of Moab. Chapter 49. Of the children of Ammon. Thus says Yahweh, Has Israel no sons? Has he no heir? Why then does Malchem possess Gad, and its people dwell in its cities? Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will cause an alarm of war to be heard against Rabbah of the children of Ammon, and it shall become a desolate heap, and her daughters shall be burned with fire. Then shall Israel possess those who did possess him, says Yahweh. Wail, Heshbon, for Ai is laid waste. Cry, you daughters of Rabbah, gird you with sackcloth. Lament, and run back and forth among the fences. For Malchem shall go into captivity, his priests and his princes together. Why glory you in the valleys, your flowing valley, backsliding daughter? Who trusted in her treasures, saying, Who shall come to me? Behold, I will bring a fear in you, says the Lord, Yahweh of armies, from all who are around you, and you shall be driven out every man right forth, and there shall be none to gather together the fugitives. But afterward I will bring back the captivity of the children of Ammon, says Yahweh. Of Edom. Thus says Yahweh of armies, Is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee you, turn back, dwell in the depths, inhabitants of Dedan. For I will bring the calamity of Esau on him, the time that I shall visit him. If grape-gatherers come to you, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? If thieves by night, wouldn't they destroy until they had enough? But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is destroyed, and his brothers, and his neighbors, and he is no more. Leave your fatherless children, I will preserve them alive; and let your widows trust in me. For thus says Yahweh, Behold, they to whom it didn't pertain to drink of the cup shall certainly drink. And are you he who shall altogether go unpunished? You shall not go unpunished, but you shall surely drink. For I have sworn by myself, says Yahweh, that Bozrah shall become an astonishment, a reproach, a waste, and a curse; and all its cities shall be perpetual wastes. I have heard news from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the nations, saying, Gather yourselves together, and come against her, and rise up to the battle. For behold, I have made you small among the nations, and despised among men. As for your terror, the pride of your heart has deceived you, O you who dwell in the clefts of the rock, who hold the height of the hill. Though you should make your nest as high as the eagle, I will bring you down from there, says Yahweh. Edom shall become an astonishment; everyone who passes by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all its plagues. As in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities of it, says Yahweh, no man shall dwell there, neither shall any son of man sojourn therein. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the pride of the Jordan against the strong habitation; for I will suddenly make them run away from it. And whoever is chosen, him will I appoint over it. For who is like me? And who will appoint me a time? And who is the shepherd who will stand before me? Therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh that he has taken against Edom, and his purposes that he has proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely they shall drag them away, even the little ones of the flock; surely he shall make their habitation desolate over them. The earth trembles at the noise of their fall; there is a cry, the noise which is heard in the Red Sea. Behold, he shall come up and fly as the eagle, and spread out his wings against Bozrah. And the heart of the mighty men of Edom at that day shall be as the heart of a woman in her pangs. Of Damascus. Hamath is confounded, and Arpad; for they have heard evil news, they are melted away. There is sorrow on the sea, it can't be quiet. Damascus has grown feeble, she turns herself to flee, and trembling has seized on her. Anguish and sorrows have taken hold of her, as of a woman in travail. How is the city of praise not forsaken, the city of my joy? Therefore her young men shall fall in her streets, and all the men of war shall be brought to silence in that day, says Yahweh of armies. I will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus, and it shall devour the palaces of Benhadad, of Kedar, and of the kingdoms of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon struck. Thus says Yahweh, Arise you, go up to Kedar, and destroy the children of the east. Their tents and their flocks shall they take. They shall carry away for themselves their curtains, and all their vessels, and their camels, and they shall cry to them, Terror on every side. Flee you, wander far off, dwell in the depths, you inhabitants of Hazor, says Yahweh. For Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, has taken counsel against you, and has conceived a purpose against you. Arise, go up to a nation that is at ease, that dwells without care, says Yahweh, that have neither gates nor bars, that dwell alone. Their camels shall be a booty, and the multitude of their livestock a spoil. And I will scatter to all winds those who have the corners of their hair cut off, and I will bring their calamity from every side of them, says Yahweh. Hazor shall be a dwelling place of jackals, a desolation forever. No man shall dwell there, neither shall any son of man sojourn therein. The word of Yahweh that came to Jeremiah the prophet concerning Elam, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah king of Judah, saying, Thus says Yahweh of armies, Behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. On Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of the sky, and will scatter them toward all those winds. And there shall be no nation where the outcasts of Elam shall not come. I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and before those who seek their life, and I will bring evil on them, even my fierce anger, says Yahweh. And I will send the sword after them, until I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam, and will destroy from there king and princes, says Yahweh. But it shall happen in the latter days that I will bring back the captivity of Elam, says Yahweh. Chapter 50. The word that Yahweh spoke concerning Babylon, concerning the land of the Chaldeans, by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare you among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard; publish, and don't conceal. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is disappointed, Merodach is dismayed, her images are disappointed, her idols are dismayed. For out of the north there comes up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They are fled, and they are gone, both man and animal. In those days, and in that time, says Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, they shall go on their way weeping, and shall seek Yahweh their God. They shall inquire concerning Zion with their faces turned toward it, saying, Come you, and join yourselves to Yahweh in an everlasting covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill, and have forgotten their resting place. All who found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, We are not guilty, because they have sinned against Yahweh, the habitation of righteousness, even Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the male goats before the flocks. For behold, I will stir up and cause to come up against Babylon a company of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From there she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of an expert mighty man. None shall return in vain. Chaldea shall be a prey. All who prey on her shall be satisfied, says Yahweh. Because you are glad, because you rejoice, O you who plunder my heritage, because you are wanton, as a heifer that treads out the grain, and neigh as strong horses, your mother shall be utterly disappointed. She who bore you shall be confounded. Behold, she shall be the least of the nations, a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of Yahweh she shall not be inhabited, but she shall be wholly desolate. Everyone who goes by Babylon shall be astonished, and hiss at all her plagues. Set yourselves in array against Babylon all around, all you who bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against Yahweh. Shout against her all around, she has submitted herself, her bulwarks are fallen. Her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of Yahweh. Take vengeance on her, as she has done, do to her. Cut off the sower from Babylon, and him who handles the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword they shall turn everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his own land. Israel is a hunted sheep. The lions have driven him away. First the king of Assyria devoured him, and now at last Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon has broken his bones. Therefore thus says Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel, Behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria. I will bring Israel again to his pasture, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied on the hills of Ephraim and in Gilead. In those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I leave as a remnant. Go up against the land of Merathaim, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pekod. Kill and destroy utterly after them, says Yahweh, and do according to all that I have commanded you. A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut apart and broken! How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations! I have laid a snare for you, and you are also taken, Babylon, and you weren't aware. You were found, and also caught, because you have striven against Yahweh. Yahweh has opened his armory, and has brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For the Lord, Yahweh of armies, has a work to do in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Kill all her bulls, let them go down to the slaughter, woe to them! For their day is come, the time of their visitation. The voice of those who flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Yahweh our God, the vengeance of his temple. Call together the archers against Babylon, and all those who bend the bow. Encamp against her all around, let none of it escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she has done do to her. For she has been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore shall her young men fall in her streets, and all her men of war shall be brought to silence in that day, says Yahweh. Behold, I am against you, you proud one, says the Lord, Yahweh of armies. For your day is come, the time that I will visit you. The proud one shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up, and I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all who are around him. Thus says Yahweh of armies, the children of Israel and the children of Judah are oppressed together, and all who took them captive hold them fast, they refuse to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong, Yahweh of armies is his name, he will thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the earth, and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword is on the Chaldeans, says Yahweh, and on the inhabitants of Babylon, and on her princes, and on her wise men. A sword is on the boasters, and they shall become fools. A sword is on her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is on their horses, and on their chariots, and on all the mixed people who are in the midst of her, and they shall become as women. A sword is on her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is on her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is a land of engraved images, and they are mad over idols. Therefore the wild animals of the desert with the wolves shall dwell there, and the ostriches shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be lived in from generation to generation. As when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities of it, says Yahweh, so shall no man dwell there, neither shall any son of man sojourn therein. Behold, a people comes from the north, and a great nation and many kings shall be stirred up from the uttermost parts of the earth. They lay hold on bow and spear. They are cruel, and have no mercy. Their voice roars like the sea, and they ride on horses, every one set in array, as a man to the battle, against you, daughter of Babylon. The king of Babylon has heard the news of them, and his hands wax feeble. Anguish has taken hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Behold, the enemy shall come up like a lion from the pride of the Jordan against the strong habitation. For I will suddenly make them run away from it, and whoever is chosen, him will I appoint over it. For who is like me, and who will appoint me a time? And who is the shepherd who can stand before me? Therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh, that he has taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he has purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely they shall drag them away, even the little ones of the flock. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate over them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon the earth trembles, and the cry is heard among the nations. Chapter 51. Thus says Yahweh, Behold, I will raise up against Babylon, and against those who dwell in Leb-kamai, a destroying wind. I will send to Babylon strangers, who shall winnow her, and they shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her around. Against him who bends, let the archer bend his bow, and against him who lifts himself up in his coat of mail. And don't you spare her young men. Destroy you utterly all her army. They shall fall down slain in the land of the Chaldeans, and thrust through in her streets. For Israel is not forsaken, nor Judah, of his God, of Yahweh of armies, though their land is full of guilt against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and save every man his life. Don't be cut off in her iniquity, for it is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render to her a recompense. Babylon has been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, who made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunk of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Wail for her, make balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one to his own country, for her judgment reaches to heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Yahweh has brought forth our righteousness. Come, and let us declare in Zion the work of Yahweh our God. Make sharp the arrows, hold firm the shields. Yahweh has stirred up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, because his purpose is against Babylon, to destroy it, for it is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. Set up a standard against the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong. Set the watchmen, prepare the ambushes. For Yahweh has both purposed and done that which he spoke concerning the inhabitants of Babylon. You who dwell on many waters, abundant in treasures, your end is come, the measure of your covetousness. Yahweh of armies has sworn by himself, saying, Surely I will fill you with men, as with the canker worm, and they shall lift up a shout against you. He has made the earth by his power, he has established the world by his wisdom, and by his understanding has he stretched out the heavens. When he utters his voice, there is a tumult of waters in the heavens, and he causes the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He makes lightning for the rain, and brings forth the wind out of his treasuries. Every man is become brutish, and is without knowledge. Every goldsmith is disappointed by his image; for his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, a work of delusion. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. The portion of Jacob is not like these, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the tribe of his inheritance. Yahweh of armies is his name. You are my battle axe and weapons of war. And with you will I break in pieces the nations, and with you will I destroy kingdoms, and with you will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with you will I break in pieces the chariot and him who rides therein. And with you will I break in pieces man and woman, and with you will I break in pieces the old man and the youth. And with you will I break in pieces the young man and the virgin, and with you will I break in pieces the shepherd and his flock, and with you will I break in pieces the farmer and his yoke of oxen, and with you will I break in pieces governors and deputies. I will render to Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done on Zion in your sight, says Yahweh. Behold, I am against you, destroying mountain, says Yahweh, which destroys all the earth. And I will stretch out my hand on you, and roll you down from the rocks, and will make you a burnt mountain. They shall not take of you a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundations, but you shall be desolate forever, says Yahweh. Set up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations. Prepare the nations against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Minni, and Ashkenaz. Appoint a marshal against her. Cause the horses to come up as the rough cankerworm. Prepare against her the nations, the kings of the Medes, its governors, and all its deputies, and all the land of their dominion. The land trembles and is in pain, for the purposes of Yahweh against Babylon do stand, to make the land of Babylon a desolation, without inhabitant. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They remain in their strongholds. Their might has failed. They are become as women. Her dwelling places are set on fire. Her bars are broken. One runner will run to meet the other, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken on every quarter, and the passages are seized, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are frightened. For thus says Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel, The daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor at the time when it is trodden, yet a little while, and the time of harvest shall come for her. Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon has devoured me, he has crushed me, he has made me an empty vessel, he has, like a monster, swallowed me up, and has filled his maw with my delicacies. He has cast me out. The violence done to me and to my flesh be on Babylon, shall the inhabitant of Zion say. And, my blood be on the inhabitants of Chaldea, shall Jerusalem say. Therefore thus says Yahweh, Behold, I will plead your cause, and take vengeance for you, and I will dry up her sea, and make her fountain dry. Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for jackals, an astonishment and a hissing, without inhabitant. They shall roar together like young lions. They shall growl as lions' cubs. When they are heated, I will make their feast, and I will make them drunken, and they may rejoice, and sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, says Yahweh. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with male goats. How is Sheshach taken, and the praise of the whole earth seized! How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations! The sea is come up on Babylon, she is covered with the multitude of its waves. Her cities are become a desolation, a dry land, and a desert, a land in which no man dwells, neither does any son of man pass thereby. I will execute judgment on Bel in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he has swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow any more to him. Yes, the wall of Babylon shall fall. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and save yourselves every man from the fierce anger of Yahweh. Don't let your heart faint. neither fear for the news that shall be heard in the land. For news shall come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come news, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Therefore, behold, the days come, that I will execute judgment on the engraved images of Babylon; and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heavens and the earth, and all that is therein, shall sing for joy over Babylon; for the destroyers shall come to her from the north, says Yahweh. As Babylon has caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the land. You who have escaped the sword, go you, don't stand still. Remember Yahweh from afar, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. We are confounded, because we have heard reproach. Confusion has covered our faces. For strangers are come into the sanctuaries of Yahweh's house. Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will execute judgment on her engraved images; and through all her land the wounded shall groan. Though Babylon should mount up to the sky, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall destroyers come to her, says Yahweh. The sound of a cry from Babylon, and of great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans. For Yahweh lays Babylon waste, and destroys out of her the great voice; and their waves roar like many waters, the noise of their voice is uttered. For the destroyer is come on her, even on Babylon, and her mighty men are taken, their bows are broken in pieces. For Yahweh is a God of recompenses; he will surely requite. I will make drunk her princes and her wise men, her governors and her deputies, and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake up, says the King, whose name is Yahweh of armies. Thus says Yahweh of armies, The broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly overthrown, and her high gates will be burned with fire; and the peoples shall labor for vanity, and the nations for the fire, and they shall be weary. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Seraiah, the son of Neriah, the son of Maaseiah, when he went with Zedekiah the king of Judah to Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. Now Seraiah was chief quartermaster. Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come on Babylon, even all these words that are written concerning Babylon. Jeremiah said to Seraiah, When you come to Babylon, then see that you read all these words, and say, Yahweh, you have spoken concerning this place, to cut it off, that none shall dwell therein, neither man nor animal, but that it shall be desolate forever. It shall be, when you have made an end of reading this book, that you shall bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates, and you shall say, Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise again because of the evil that I will bring on her, and they shall be weary. Thus far the words of Jeremiah. Chapter 52. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. He did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of Yahweh did it happen in Jerusalem and Judah, until he had cast them out of his presence. Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. It happened in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came, he and all his army, against Jerusalem, and encamped against it. And they built forts against it round about. So the city was besieged to the 11th year of king Zedekiah. In the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in that city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land. Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled, and went forth out of the city by night by the way of the gate between the 2 walls, which was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were against the city all around. And they went toward the Arabah. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king, and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Then they took the king, and carried him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah in the land of Hamath, and he gave judgment on him. The king of Babylon killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. He killed also all the princes of Judah in Riblah. He put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and the king of Babylon bound him in fetters, and carried him to Babylon, and put him in prison until the day of his death. Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of king Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard, who stood before the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem; and he burned the house of Yahweh, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, even every great house, burned he with fire. All the army of the Chaldeans, who were with the captain of the guard, broke down all the walls of Jerusalem all around. Then Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried away captive of the poorest of the people, and the residue of the people who were left in the city, and those who fell away, who fell to the king of Babylon, and the residue of the multitude. But Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard left of the poorest of the land to be vineyard keepers and farmers. The pillars of brass that were in the house of Yahweh, and the bases and the bronze sea that were in the house of Yahweh, did the Chaldeans break in pieces, and carried all the brass of them to Babylon. The pots also, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the basins, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass which with they ministered, took they away. The cups, and the fire pans, and the basins, and the pots, and the lampstands, and the spoons, and the bowls, that which was of gold, in gold, and that which was of silver, in silver, the captain of the guard took away. The 2 pillars, the 1 sea, and the 12 bronze bulls that were under the bases, which King Solomon had made for the house of Yahweh. The brass of all these vessels was without weight. As for the pillars, the height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and a line of 12 cubits did compass it; and its thickness was 4 fingers; it was hollow. A capital of brass was on it, and the height of 1 capital was 5 cubits, with network and pomegranates on the capital all around, all of brass. And the 2d pillar also had, like these, and pomegranates. There were 96 pomegranates on the sides, all the pomegranates were 100 on the network all around. The captain of the guard took Seraiah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the 2d priest, and the 3 keepers of the threshold; and out of the city he took an officer who was set over the men of war, and 7 men of those who saw the king's face, who were found in the city; and the scribe of the captain of the army, who mustered the people of the land; and 60 men of the people of the land, who were found in the midst of the city. Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard took them, and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. The king of Babylon struck them, and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was carried away captive out of his land. This is the people whom Nebuchadnezzar carried away captive. In the 7th year 3,023 Jews. In the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 persons. In the 23 year of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried away captive of the Jews 745 persons. All the persons were 4,600. It happened in the 37th year of the captivity of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the 12th month, in the 25th day of the month, that Evil-Merodach, king of Babylon, in the 1st year of his reign, lifted up the head of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and brought him forth out of prison. And he spoke kindly to him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings who were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments. Jehoiakim ate bread before him continually all the days of his life, and for his allowance there was a continual allowance given him by the king of Babylon, every day a portion, until the day of his death, all the days of his life. End of the Book of Jeremiah.